Sunday bites and tidbits. This life they'll help you live it and get yourself together. Sunday bites and tidbits.
Hey y'all, welcome to Sunday Bites and Tidbits. We are so excited to have you here today. Now I want you to make sure you subscribe, like, and follow us because we have some of the best guest assistances on this show. And if you know what's happening, you got to stay abreast and you got to follow us. And I'm drinking kombucha and I got the bell. But that's what happens, bites and tidbits. So if you want something to drink, go grab it. If you want something to eat, go grab it and come on back and join us. So, hey ladies, how you doing?
Hey Tara, how are you?
Hey baby. Hey, how you doing?
Hey Sylvia.
Hey Babette. You look beautiful. You guys are so pretty.
So are you?
And so are you, sweetie.
Well, I appreciate that. Y'all good?
I'm good. You weren't feeling too well the other day.
Oh, you know how you got a little something chasing you, but the way we eat, the way we live, whatever, it's gotta tackle me to the ground before I stop. And it kind of did that on Sunday. It said, you're done now. So
Good.
I feel a lot better today. So yeah, life is good. I'm good. I'm excited about today's show. Oh,
yes, I know. We have some of the best guests coming on. But what are some inspirations for today? Like, what could we share? Each of us share. You want me to go first because I did have an inspirational weekend. I was going through one of those moments where it just felt like everything that was gifted to you was being snatched away at the same time, and I was like, "Come on, what the heck?" And then I just sat in, and I remembered our conversation with Senator Carol Mosley Braun when we were talking about reminding ourselves to stay in the moment of everything and not getting caught up in the other things of what's coming or what's not coming. And I said, you know what? Today it's a good day. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I get to do nothing while everything works itself out. And when I tell you, the moment I did that, and I reminded myself of the day and the moments and the value of just taking a deep breath, that we take that for granted, that everybody's not breathing the way they'd like to breathe today. My friend Angela, who's been having breathing challenges since 2024, I say prayers for her every day. She was fine and then she wasn't. The gift of just a breath, we forget about that. We take it for granted. So I said, you know what? Take a deep breath. And go on back and do the moment. So the moment was, I'm going to watch some judge shows. And then I'm going to go watch Family Affair. And then I'm going to go watch all the old movies. And that was my day. So, and then it just shifted my consciousness. And then I got like 2 jobs in right immediately from nowhere. So nice. It's about the shift. It's about the staying in the momento, people, the moment.
Oh.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Congratulations. Yay.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'll go next. I have one. Mine is short, but it's about intention. There's someone in my life who's really important to me. And no matter what she's doing, or no matter what she's kind of going through in her own kind of space, she always figures out a way to be a blessing to someone else. I got 30 seconds free. I'll go, how can I help you? Oh, I found out about this thing, or that's just what she does. And I was reminded of that yet again today when we were talking earlier. And she said, hey girl, I got this thing. I'm gonna send it over to you. And then we could, it'd be a blessing to you. We could, and I'm just like, and I know she had a show to shoot like 15 minutes from the time she was on the phone with me. and she was like over here trying to figure out how she could bless me and how she could be a blessing. And I'm just like, she blows my mind. I've known her since I was 16 years old, and she blows me.
It's just clicking.
What are we talking about? Debbie Bennett Smith.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That actually happened today, Babette. She hit me up right before we got her. Hey, girl, I got this thing. I'm gonna send it over to you. And I'm like, don't we have a show? And she's like, I'm inspired. I'm inspired by it.
That
every
was,
That's
that
my
But
intention.
that's the purpose of the show for us. Each one teaches one, each one feeds one. We
Yeah.
are one, and when something blesses me and I can be of service to someone, that's what I want to do. I want to be of service to them because it may not come back from them, but it will come back from someone or
Yeah.
something or someplace.
Yeah.
But anything you want to share?
well, just telling Sylvia, thank you for telling me that I could be frustrated. Thank you, honey.
Don't you make me cry on this show. I don't get my lashes
And we
done.
all gonna be all messed up before Keesha comes on, all beautiful Keesha. We looking all raggedy and broke down our
Yeah.
eyes. And
I was so girl, these computers and all this stuff be driving me. I was almost turning flips over here. And Sylvia said, it's all right, you can be frustrated. It's okay. I was like, thanks.
And that's a
Anyway.
reminder because we do, these things take us to habits, you know what I mean? And our habit might be to go right, girl, don't ever drink kombucha on Bites and Tidbits. This thing is like drinking alcohol, like beer. All I'm just burping over here and trying not to burp. This thing is deep. But anyway, it just reminds us that, someone comes into our lives to remind us of the things that we need to work on. And also when those things come up, it reminds us that we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. We can make a different choice and make it easier on ourselves because the thing that we do just frustrates us even more. But we don't have no frustrations today because we have a wonderful person on our show. And
Excited about talking to her.
Girl.
I
She's
know.
so beautiful.
Well, we set our intentions. My intention today is to stay in the moment again. What's your intention, Sylvia?
My intention is to stay mindful of opportunities to be a blessing.
Babette?
Continue to love.
Oh,
Especially loving Babette.
yes. Well, now that we've set our intentions, we'd love to bring in our guest because she's waiting patiently on the sidelines.
It is a pleasure for me to introduce this woman. She's incredibly talented and she is drop stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
But her heart is so much more beautiful than her beautiful face. It's not even, they tell you, don't meet your heroes or don't meet people that you kind of look up to or people that you admire because in person she's so far exceeded anything I imagined that she would be when we met that it's mind-blowing. She has such a kind heart. Her range is just bananas. She is the ultimate triple, quadruple threat singer, dancer, actress, model, producer, director, all the things. I'm just going to give you guys a little glimpse and then we'll get her on so you guys can hear from her. But some of the iconic roles you might remember her from: Girlfriends, Lethal Weapon, The People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, and behind the camera, she's directed, and this is mind-blowing to me, over 20 directing credits. And most people know her as an actress, but she is just a bananas director, and she's directed Black Lightning, Bel Air, All American Homecoming, Our Kind of People. I mean, the list just goes on. And as I said, she's a singer, actor, dance. She's all the things. And I got a chance to experience her love and her light when we worked on the Project Spring Breakthrough, and she put her foot in the role of Monica Rollins. On set, she was kind to everyone, from the PAs who got the coffee to the EP to me, creative producer, the director. She was the same kind, generous, amazing person to everyone.
So before we bring her out, let's take a look at some of her work.
Who is she?
I'm ready to welcome somebody to our table.
You made the world your stage. You wanted the attention. Now you got it.
Didn't make it.
I'm sorry, huh? Remember those words. Tell me a story, Z.
What? Since you can't keep your mouth closed long enough for me to read this magazine, you tell me a story.
I got a few. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Hell to the no.
Please join me in welcoming my friend and sister, the one and only Keesha Sharp.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. How are you?
I'm good. How is everybody else?
Wonderful. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I missed you.
I miss you more. We can't do that right now. We can't do that. Wonderful.
So Keisha, what
Yeah.
got you inspired? Like, what was your inspiration to get into acting? Tell us a
Oh,
little
wow.
bit how you got started.
Oh man, I've been doing it for so long. In grammar school, I was doing theater. I loved Diana Ross. I loved Barbara Streisand. All of those were like what I wanted to at the time as a young little girl, that was doing something completely different than anyone else in my family. I was an odd one because I loved things that everybody else didn't love in my family. And so I would tape. I had a little, back in the day, tape recorder, and I would tape just to say Yentl was on, Barbara Streisand's Yentl. I would tape the recording on the TV and then go in my room and sing with it. My brother and sister were listening to what was popular, whatever was popular at the time, but that's where it started for me. I loved the idea of singing and telling a story. And there's nothing, I just was so passionate about it growing up. And music was very important to me as well. And yeah, that's kind of how it started for me.
Oh, that's so precious. That's so precious.
I have a question.
Yes.
I hold my question, Deb. Should
Sure.
I jump? Thank you. Okay. I just want to ask. So
Yes.
this is bananas, and we've talked about that.
Yes.
Oh, so I have a question I'm supposed to ask you, but I'm going to ask you something else.
Okay. Okay, go.
How do you stay inspired? Not by the craft, by the business, to stay in the game. How do you?
I do understand that question, and it's a great question because, Brad and I were just discussing this today, where, how do you stay inspired? I love what I do. It really is, it comes down to that. It would be great to get paid really well to do what we do, right? Of course, we want to be able to make a living. And I never want to say I would do it if I didn't get paid, but I kind of would.
Yeah.
I love acting. I love the art of creating a story and telling a story. If I were doing it at a local theater or at a high school where, even when I was growing up, I was involved with a lot of theater programs and going in and making a difference by telling the story. We would do improv and talk about whatever the kids were going through. If it was troubled youth, we would try to put on an improv thing to help them understand and be able to talk about what they were going through to find healing. So I love what I do, and that's what keeps me motivated, because if it were about the business, I would be out of it so fast. I would be, living out in Montana with a home with my own farm and, just going out and hiking and doing all those things. There's a part of me that loves that. And then the other side of me, it's like, but I'm supposed to be doing this. And somehow changing the world through storytelling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You about to say something about that?
No, I was just listening to her and I got it, man. I love that part about you would be in Montana and doing those things, but you're doing your first love first.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's so funny, Keisha, because I try to hike at least every day.
Every day.
Some days I don't, because like right now I told my, but whatever the situation, not from the Bronx, technically, then into Manhattan, we do no hiking. We can hike anywhere. And every time I'm out.
You can hike up to like, 23rd Street from Brooklyn. You could hike.
Yeah, and that because it's funny, because that's where I moved to from the Bronx was 23rd Street, right over there. And Second Avenue would say that. But when I go out now and I do the hikes and I go out with, I don't know if you know Tico Wells, but I go out with Tico, that's my hiking buddy. And we hike all the time, but it's a very spiritually aligning place to be. It helps me to stay centered in this madness of a business that we chose to be a part of. So when you say the balance, would I be in Colorado? I don't know if I could be in Colorado someplace because I don't know how long I would last. Having the nice balance to be able to go out and do the hikes help a lot personally,
Yeah. I can relate to that because there's a part of me that says, well, maybe I'll spend half my life out, in Montana, Colorado, and I have some towns that I really love that we go to every Christmas and sometime during the spring. That very small town, progressive. We got to be progressive. Where I would, where I like to do outdoor activities. I love the outdoors and I love hiking. I love water sports, any kind of thing like that. But I understand that I need that, but I also understand that you have to follow your passion. You have to, because then the outdoor hiking might not be as enjoyable if you weren't fulfilling the other side of who we are, because we're not just one dimensional. We have a lot of dimensions as human beings and as women. And so you have to find, how do you fill up all of those parts of yourself?
Yes.
For me, I'm sort of navigating that space right now because I live in Arkansas.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we are in a time in the world, because I've lived in LA, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Chicago, I lived in all the places that you need to be for our business. But we live in a time now where I can live in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Yep.
I can jump on a Zoom, or I can get on a plane, or I can do whatever I need to do. And that's a really blessed time for me because I get to keep my head clear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I get to breathe this really clean air and I get to just do all of that. But at the same time, when I'm in pumpkin mode, I can jump in that, and just be wherever I need to be to still do the work, because that'll never not be right. It'll just never not be. And so I appreciate that. That's a really awesome way of framing that, it really is.
All I'm doing is staring at her, so it's just probably looking like I'm
yeah, because turn a little bit the other way that we sent you. Yeah, because right now you're gonna say, why don't you tell me
better?
No, but better. You said turn center up for me. Yeah, that's where you need to be. Whatever you're doing right now,
and just stare at myself.
Yeah. No, it's not where your eyes are looking, it's your body was turned.
Well, the eye line is better this way too, though.
The head was turned. So you look like you're the only one looking over there, somebody coming in your house. So I didn't want to, okay, so we're good to go. All righty, Babette, you got a question for sister girl here?
Keesha.
Yes.
I'm scared to look at you. You just seem so positive. It's like, it's just, I guess, just such a source of positivity, and it's like it's evident in your work and everything that you do. And Jesus Christ, that big ass smile. And I mean, I've seen some really pretty women, but Lord have mercy, girl. Anyway, yeah. So how do you manage to stay so positive, especially considering how challenging the film industry is? Okay, wait, hold on, Keisha. Let me get my eyes back. All right, go.
I think for me, I've always been this way. And sometimes I guess my husband will tell you, because he's not always this way. So for us, and we've been together for 30 years. So I'm always the one that's super positive. I've been this way all the time. Sometimes I have to bring him on board and maybe that's why it works, because sometimes I have to be like, you got to see, I just do. I just look at what is positive, because the alternative I don't want a part of. I don't want to be a part of the, what if it doesn't work out? I don't want to be a part of the dark side of things, because we got enough of that. We see that enough. If you want some of that, just turn on anything. You will see that. For me, it's just so important to look on the positive side of things, because it feeds your soul, it feeds other people. It's just such an energy that I think is so important as human beings to look
Yes.
on the positive side of it, because you can always say what can go wrong, but
Right.
gosh, what could go right?
What can go right?
What can
Yeah.
go right? Let me do
Yeah.
that instead. And
I
sometimes I
love it.
have this thought where, you know how as human beings we can be bogged down on how many things can go wrong. And sometimes whether or not we can create that because we are manifesting something not positive. And I
Mhm.
always think, gosh, what if you put all of that energy into what can go right?
Right.
Imagine, then your life will totally change. The manifestation of what what God says, right? God says, fix your heart on things, that's basically on positive things. And
Oh,
if you can really feel the difference when you do that, your heart changes, your mind changes, the things that come to you change. Um, I don't know. I just feel like I don't want it any other way.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
And it's
Yeah.
also a testament to doing that work, because it's very easy to fall prey to the other thing because we're so
Yes.
conditioned. Like you said, you turn on the news, wherever
Yeah.
we go, it's always something negative, and it's very, very hard sometimes to move away from that stuff because you call a friend, she got some problems, you call
Yes.
somebody's got some problems. And I have gotten to the place now where like my hikes are very sacred. You can't come on
Mm.
my hike because friends are like, I want to join you. And I go, no, because you are going to want to talk about something is wrong with you the whole trip, and you're going to ruin the vibe. This is about positivity. This is about uplifting. This is about me
Yeah.
setting the intention for the rest of my day. So I
Yes.
be very picky now, even about the people I let in my circle, in my life,
Yeah,
because
Yes.
that's
you
important.
know, and I always tell people it's very important that even when you answer your phone, you set your own intention, because the person who's calling you, they already had you, they don't know what their intention is. And if
Yes.
you don't have set your intention, like, I have a friend, well, a person who
Yes.
calls and there's always something wrong. And I know if
Yes.
he calls, there's going to be something wrong. So instead of me just picking up the phone and going right into the conversation, I have to set an intention. Okay, the moment I hear this, I do that. The moment she does, I
Yes.
got to call you back until I am equally aligned with myself and me, the two people, the cuckoo person and the strong person are aligned
Yes.
where the strong person's running the show. And then when I get on the phone with her, I no longer fall prey to wherever she wants me to go.
You need to be the strong person when you talk to that person. So if I feel a negative energy that I have, I'll start humming. I'll
Mm-hmm.
start humming. I will start humming, and right after that hum, I don't even remember. Maybe it's perimenopause too, because I was like, I don't even know what I was thinking. I don't. But it was not important because we're human, especially during this hormones, because we have to be honest about hormones, where sometimes the chemistry, it's not even what you intend for it to be. Our bodies are what they are, and so sometimes the chemistry, because our hormones are all over the place, especially if you're going to perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. And even if you're not, we still have hormones where you can recognize that and say, oh, that's not how I'm feeling, something's chemically off, let me fix that. Maybe it's something I'm
Mm,
eating, maybe I didn't have enough of this today, or whatever, because that is a real thing for women, even for men, but especially for us, where you can be in a hormonal place that's not really how you feel. It's the hormone that's off, and so we have to be conscious of that as well.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the,
Beautiful.
sorry, Babette, go ahead.
No, I was just, you guys hear me going beautiful because I'm thinking about, especially when she said, she's always the positive one. And even sometimes she has to bring her husband along with her. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about me and my old husband. And sometimes, and sometimes I look. So thank you, Keisha, because next time when he start dragging me down, I'll be like, Keisha said, I'm supposed to pull you up. So
I'm telling you, he'll tell you, I'm like that all the time. I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing that. Nope.
I love it.
Let's go positive. Let's go positive. He starts, especially with what's happening today in our world. I understand it because there's a conversation sometimes that needs to happen. But can we
Right.
talk about it in a positive way?
Uh,
Like, there's nothing we can do about certain things
right.
out of our control. You
Yeah.
being angry, how is that changing anything? How's it
Right.
changing anything? It's
Keisha,
not.
Sometimes I mean I'm listening because I'm laughing inside because we've had this conversation
Yes.
about these lovely men that we're married to. And Mitchell will tell you, I mean, and he and Brad have even talked about it before, that y'all already know who I am. Y'all already know what I bring, and I've always been this way. I've always been this way, and that's, I think, one of the things that attracted us to each other in the midst of some insanity. One of the things that attracted us to each other was I could see her light. I could feel her light. I could feel her light on the phone before we actually met in person.
Wow.
Navigating some really weird waters, right? And it's kind of like when it's who you are. He's gotten to the point now where he'll tell me, he'll say it in his little kid voice. He'll say, "Don't dim your lights, Sibba. Don't dim your lights," because sometimes you do feel the weight of feeling like you're carrying the positive mantle or the mantle of carrying basically the light. That's why kindness is so important to me, because one of the reasons, because the chemicals that are activated from the science of kindness address the hormones. They address the chemicals, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the endorphins, all of that. That can happen by observing an act of kindness, even if you're not the one doing it.
Yes.
Right?
It changes the chemistry.
Changes the chemistry.
That's right. A smile changes the chemistry. If there's a difference, you can run into someone in life, right? And someone's really nasty to you, right? And that happens, especially in this world. And so I can choose to go with the nastiness, right? I can choose to engage that, but I can choose to also smile at that person. That all of a sudden it changes the chemistry of whatever was happening. And you don't know what people are going through in their lives, right? It may be personal or may not be. 9 times out of 10, it's not. 9 times out of 10, they're dealing with a lot of stuff in their life. And I can either engage in that negativity, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to do. If someone gives you an attitude, well, I'm gonna give you an attitude back. But instead, I'm at the cashier and I can feel whatever that is you feel, and I can choose to smile and just say, yeah. And all of a sudden, it changes everything.
It's funny because I do that as an exercise just because.
I love that. I love that.
So one time I was someplace at the court thing doing something, and I can tell the lady behind it, she was just waiting for the next person to come up with her little snippy. So I said, "Oh, so this is gonna be fun. Let's see how powerful you are," because that's what I'm saying to myself. So I got up to her and I said, "Hey, girlie," I said, "First of all, let me just start by telling you, I applaud you for doing this job."
Listen.
I said, not a lot of people can manage all these personalities. I said, and you look beautiful today, and that green is working on you. I just went in. And by the time I was done, she was like, "So what do we need?" You. She shifted everything. And people are looking. They don't even know that they're looking for someone to help them along when they're in that space. And sometimes we just have to, when we know better, we have to do better.
Do better. I love that.
I love that.
I love that, even that thought of, if I see someone, because you can see people sometimes, like you were in line, like you saw it already, and you can either go, oh boy, here we go, or you're like, oh, this is a challenge. I want to send her love. I want to give her, I want to bless her. Even if she doesn't take it, I'm going to keep giving it to her. And I'll walk away knowing I did my best, even if, because sometimes that person may be so hard that they don't take that joy or love that you're sending, but you know that you did your best to try to do that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I want to jump into something.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I was just going to say one little thing. You know what's beautiful about that, Keesha? You said it, and Dee, you said it too. You can sow the seed. It's not up to you to water it and to make it grow.
There you go.
Sow the seed. And when you sow it, even if it boomerangs off their hard heart, it bounces back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Right? And it changes the atmosphere the way you did, Dee. Then that still grows up in you, and it's still blessing you, even if your intention wasn't to get yourself blessed.
Yes.
You're blessed anyway.
Yes, I love that.
It's a beautiful thing that God created.
Yeah, I love it.
So I want to change the narrative a little bit, not the narrative, the story a little bit, and I want to move into being moms,
Yes.
trying to run a business, especially in the entertainment industry. Also, being mothers of son, Babette has a grandson, so she can relate. But we all have sons. You have a son, right, Keisha?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about having navigated the business or any business, being a mom, how
Yeah.
we do that, and then this the tone of this world raising sons and
Mm.
sons of any color that's not just straight up Caucasian.
Yes. Yes. Uh,
Where like how because I'm just gonna say so many people I know who've put motherhood, who wanted to have kids, put it on hold,
yeah.
thinking, waiting for the big thing to happen, the it thing, that the
Perfect.
career changer that's going
The
to make
perfect
me
thing.
famous.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then they find that, well, that didn't happen. And now I'm 45 and now I can't have kids. And I
Oh,
kind of wasted that time.
Yeah.
What was your transition into I'm living my life, my motherhood, all of that stuff?
Well, for me, it's funny because I'll just say I always had hormonal issues growing up, like since puberty, right? So I was told that I might not be able to have kids, that it might be very difficult. I was on birth control to get my cycle to be per, a month. And then I started learning that that's not good for you. And then I wanted it out of my system. I did homeopathic to get off of it. And then that's how I got pregnant. I wasn't trying. We got
oh,
pregnant just
wow.
we took like 5 tests because I couldn't believe it. I was like, and I wasn't ready because it wasn't something we had even discussed. It just happened. I was, I don't know, 31. And I didn't know I was okay if I didn't. I thought I was okay if I didn't have children because if it wasn't in the cards, it wasn't in the cards, and that would be just what it is. So when we got pregnant, it was my life changed completely. It was all about him. So about my body and making sure everything, taking homeopathic remedies, making sure he was going to come out and all the things. I turned into Mama Bear as soon as I found out we were pregnant. And then and I did a parent attachment. I wanted to be I wanted to have him naturally. That didn't end up happening. Um, but I had a doula. I had all the things. I wanted to feel what it felt like to have a baby. It didn't happen. If I had been, alive and had a baby a century ago, I would probably not be here. And neither would Solomon because it just would never dilate. It was just never going to happen. So I had a C-section. But having him changed everything. Everything was about him. You think like, what was I doing before I had Solomon? What were we doing? We always say how much time was wasted before we had our son. But I mean, I hate to say it was easy because I don't want to make parenthood sound like it doesn't have challenges, but he just was an easy kid, loving, and we were so loving to him. A parent attachment. I breastfed for 2 years.
Ooh.
We were those parents. I was watching him every second. I never wanted him out of my sight. When we would go out, he would never, there was one time, I can remember because it was one time, I was shooting in Connecticut for a show, and we were there for 2 years, and he was 4 or 5, and we went to the park. And again, I was that parent that he never left. I was always nervous. I was, probably a little not overbearing, but I was overprotective, and I'm okay with that. And so there was one time that he was out of my sight, and I ran up a slide and didn't realize it had I don't know if you know the slides, they have a little bar at the top, you know how, and I
Mhm.
didn't see it. My face, I thought I broke my nose. And even with the thought of breaking my nose, it didn't matter because I was looking for him. I love being a mom to a son, and even if I have a daughter, I'm sure it would have been just as beautiful, just different.
Oh,
And he's in college now, but I feel like we raised him so well. He was okay leaving. It wasn't. He's just a great kid. I love him, and I have to let go. And that's the hard part because he has a girlfriend, and sometimes it's beginning that stage where I hate to say they're more important, but it sometimes feels that way.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. I'm not okay with someone being more important than his mom, but I'm also understanding, just like we did as little girls. And there's a time that the separation happens where that person becomes a little more important to them to a degree. My husband's having a little more problem with that, but I'm I'm always saying, honey, this is the circle of life. I know he loves us and he tells us that all the time, but your girlfriend or who you think you love becomes super more important um, forever or at this little stage in time. So yeah, I think I answered the question. I know I can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
long-winded.
But I want to add, because I'm going to add in everyone in this as parents or grandparents with sons. How do you navigate I still am working on myself, because when you say you were overbearing, I have twin boys,
Oh
and
wow.
a daughter. So I have, where are you going? Which side you going? Can't y'all just go together so I can worry about the one place at one time? But with that said, with the state of the world, the police and all this other
Yeah,
stuff, where do you fit? I have such, and I'm working diligently, but such anxieties I have to work on with that,
yeah, yeah,
that, and I know mine comes from losing my mother at a very early age, that there's a sense of I don't get to keep things that I love, you
yeah.
know. So I have to work on constantly when they're out of my sight, or just be so busy that I forget.
Yes.
So, and I'm finding that I was talking to a couple of my other friends whose parents are still alive. They still have that same anxiety. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so maybe I'm not just crazy. It's just a thing that we deal with. But Beth, I'm gonna start with you, and then I'm gonna come around because you're a grandparent. Do you, even as a grandparent, because I'm saying, well, maybe when they get parents, I'll have less anxiety.
Yeah.
As a grandparent, do you have um I forgot to put myself on the thing. Um, do you deal with any of that?
Tara,
With this
Tara,
Huh?
Tara. Okay, so I had one grandson, and he was always an incredibly sweet,
Yeah.
sweet kid. But I wasn't around him a lot. He didn't grow. They moved to Nevada, and I've been so busy with the business.
Mhm.
The one grandkid that I did spend a lot of time with was my granddaughter.
Yeah.
And yeah. Uh-huh. And I was glad she had a mama. I don't know why you started with me. I don't know why.
Thought about grandsons. I didn't bring up the granddaughter because
I know, but
okay, well,
anyway.
so we're gonna go on to you, and we're gonna end with you, Keisha. Sylvia, we know that you are a very special child, the most special child, that I think that we don't even get how special our children, who have other types of ways of doing things. I just really believe that they're more aware, more aligned than we are as humans, because they just are filter free, carefree. That
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sil.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about all this because I have a mixed kid who looks like a Black kid, who is also neurodivergent,
Yep.
autistic. He's not nonverbal. But I was also told that I would never have children. I was actually told at 16 that I had an infantile uterus and I'd never be able to carry a baby to term. But the thing I always say is they forgot to tell the children.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to come here anyway.
That's right.
And I had a cancer diagnosis when I was pregnant with my twins. I had a death sentence. They told me I was 24. They told me that I would be dead within 6 months of their birth, possibly a year, maybe 2 years of quality of life. And so I needed to find someone to raise them. That's not a thing. I'm 24. I'm not finding someone to raise my kids. I'm going to raise my kids and I'm going to celebrate their birthdays and all the things. And obviously, that's what happened. That's a different story for a different time. But in terms of what Keisha was saying about this whole idea of being the whole push and pull of knowing that you've raised a young man, you've raised a godly young man who is brilliant and beautiful and kind and all the things. and you don't want to let go, but you also are someone who understands scripture. When
Yeah.
the Bible tells us to leave and cleave, there's a reason for that. That there is that moment where you have to let go of them physically, but you never let go of them spiritually, which is more important anyway.
Yeah.
And so but it is a push and pull on your emotions and your psyche. I brought that up because I have had so many moments where Isaiah has left the house, and I was telling his twin, I have twins as well, twin daughters, the other day, that I could be terrified every time Isaiah wakes up in the morning. I could be terrified every time he walks out of the house.
Yeah.
I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in Texas. I now live in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, but even when we were in LA,
Yeah.
all of those times, but there was a point where I realized I am not going to cry. I realized, I got a revelation of God gave him to me. He's not mine. He's on loan.
Yeah.
And it's my job. God said, you're going to be the one that's going to raise him. You guys are going to be the ones to mold and craft him. But I'm his father, just like I'm yours. And I love you more than you ever could. Wow.
Beautiful.
And what happened was that of course, you know, when something like that comes into your heart, you get a chance to test it right away.
Yeah.
So that same week, I get a call from his fourth grade teacher, and she's in tears because they can't find him. He's lost. He's been lost so long that they've actually called the parent. So I do what I do. Deb, you know, I centered myself and I was like, okay, Lord, show me where my child is. Show me where he is. And I started talking to him, which I later used as he got older and we had to activate finding him. But I was like, okay, I closed my eyes. I was like, where are you, Isaiah? And I saw him. I said, he's in the locker. And they walked straight to the locker, and there he was in the locker. And so all of that to say that when I let go of trusting in my ability to be the perfect parent or the perfect anything, but particularly we're talking about parenting and parenting boys, it was when I stepped into the peace of God around all of that, that makes no sense. Bible calls it passes all understanding. It makes no sense in this climate. It's no sense for me to not be terrified every moment of every day about him. But that is counter to his progress in life, and certainly counter to mine.
Yours. Yeah.
I'm also a grandparent. So, and people look at me and go, no, I really am. I'm a grandparent. And so when it comes to and I'm a grandparent of boys. My twin girls both have boys, and they look more like Solomon. So they have more of that kind of, you know, but even them in the world, I don't call it grandparenting, Babette. I call it parenting 2.0, because I don't feel any less connected to Landon and Griff and Phoenix than I did to Amber, Ashley, Isaiah, and Christian.
Oh, that's nice.
Because they came out of me.
Right.
It's all one thread. And so it's the same thing swaths over everyone. So that's.
And I would like to revisit that just for a second, because all of the kids in my family are absolutely awesome. We all have a human journey. We all have an experience. However, my daughter was an amazing gift. I only had one child, but she was an amazing gift because she is still an incredible, incredible woman. She is the sweetest, sweetest woman, smart, just wonderful. I just absolutely love her. Of course, when I am a grandparent, 73 years old, and kids are going to be kids. And sometimes granny's patience just ain't
what it used to be.
You know what I mean? So that was where I was with, because the granddaughter is more like her daddy. So little stubborn and got her own little way. And she and I used to bump a lot. But other than that, yeah, they're all absolutely wonderful and truly a gift from God, to be in my life. So yeah, I just wanted to make that better
Yeah, well, I wasn't. We are. You're a very loving person, so we can imagine. It was just funny because you know what? People can relate to that too. Because you know what? People can relate to that one child or one niece or one nephew or one somebody who just wants to test your patience. And
Oh,
that's like Keisha said, that's when you got to pull them over to the positive side. Come on, let me pull you over here. So Keisha, your
Yeah.
mom, you're a working mom, you have a
Yeah.
son. How do you navigate, him being out there? Now, what part of the college, what part of town is he in for college?
He's in Arizona, and
Okay,
I'm
so
yeah,
he's out there in Arizona, so he's not, I mean, you can get to him a little bit quicker than I
yeah.
could my daughter being in New York when she was there. But how are you faring and feeling as a mom?
I'm feeling. It's funny because my husband, when we dropped him off last year, because he's going into his second year. Um, I was sad, but I was also very much um, confident in him. I really was. Like, I just, because I knew we had done our job, and I trust
yeah,
him,
yeah.
and I pray, and I trust in those prayers. My husband, he had a harder time. Like when we were driving home, he was like having, I hope you don't mind. I listen. They need to know it's okay to break down a little. He had a little breakdown while we were driving. I was like, honey, it's okay. It's okay. He's gonna be fine. I really did feel confident on leaving him and that he was ready. I felt he was ready, and I was confident in that. I missed him. I love when we text and he calls me and all the things. I love when he came home for the summer. But I was confident in him being ready. Um, does that make me any less that I would like to hold on to him as long as I can? No, of course I would. I would. I'm that mama bear. Like, what's wrong? You need me to come? You know, that kind of thing. But I also understand that it was time and he was ready, and he loved that I felt that way. I didn't hold on to him. I can't let you go. And we were those kind of parents. We brought him there. We stayed there a week while he was we've always been those parents. When he was in grammar school and he didn't have any friends because he's a sensitive soul, right? And he's a kind kid. I would go and eat lunch with him every day. Like I did not want him to feel any same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
What?
we're those mamas.
No,
I did. I went and I sat down, came and ate lunch with him, and I was okay with that. I didn't never want him to feel alone. And I needed to do that. I did it. And so I felt okay leaving him because we raised them now. I feel like we
All
raised
of you guys did that? All of you guys would go and have lunch and all of
well,
y'all?
yeah, I mean, yeah, but when I've been vegan a long time, right? And the kids were not allowed to eat white flour and certain all kinds of things. So I would, oh my gosh, I'm that mom. Wow. I would call the school at the beginning of the year and find out when all the birthdays were.
and I
And if
would bring cake for him. He would bring what he needed. I did the same thing, gluten-free, soy-free, all the things.
No.
he's
I would
not the weird kid, or they're not Amber
I did
Ashley's
that.
not the weird kid sitting there with no treat when everybody else gets to eat whatever everybody else
Same
is eating.
thing.
No, I
That's what
did. I had to do that too because my kids didn't eat meat. And when everybody had hot dogs, I would bring them at the time. They would do like the vegan dogs at the time. So I'd bring them in vegan dogs. And it backfired one time because at a party, the parents thought they ate hot dogs because they would always see them eating a hot dog. And and before I got there, they were just enjoying. They didn't know no different. They're just eating a hot dog. I said, "What are you eating?" Well, she gave me a hot dog. I said, "First of all, don't be giving my kid food unless you have."
But you
What happened,
do.
but
But you
Yeah.
yeah.
do these things because you know what that school experience can be like,
Yeah, sure.
especially the three of us. And you, obviously you, Babette, but when your children were little, you weren't on camera. We all were,
Oh,
you know. And do y'all remember times when a show would come out or an episode would air or a movie and all of a sudden your kids start getting treated differently at school or
oh,
people crazy? You know, for me, it was at school and at church. And I remember going up to the school, and on the one hand, they'd get a whole bunch of new friends, or all of a sudden their other friends will start acting funny. And it's
Yeah.
different, I guess, if you grow up around kids who are in the business.
Yeah.
But when we were in Texas, they weren't in that situation. I would just go and just show up, wouldn't even do anything. Just sit over there and just be.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
wow.
just just be around. And I think that it gave them, are my children codependent? Probably. I'm okay with that.
Me too.
You
Yeah.
know,
I didn't.
mean, you know,
My daughter didn't have that luxury. I was going through a period where I was using chemicals, and when my daughter was in grade school, and I can literally remember taking, having having a taxi come and pick her up from school. I was going through something, so she didn't get that from me. You know what I'm saying? She didn't. And there are just some kids that are not as blessed as your kids were. And I think that's beautiful that you guys were there for them like that, you know.
Well, let me also say this to that note. We all move through whatever we're moving through, obviously. But fortunate for your daughter that whatever that was, whatever you then gave her, she's the most beautiful, kind-hearted
just
spirit.
gonna say,
So it's like the journeys are the journeys, but it's what we do with those journeys and how we fix ourselves and how we grow out of it, then we teach them.
For our son, because we have always been there to pick up or whatever he needs, is to teach him to fly on his own. He's actually a pilot, so not fly literally, but fly on his own in terms of creating his own. Like, we're always there, if it's money, if it's whatever, that he has to learn to take care of himself in that regard. And I think that's a lesson that he's probably going to be the hardest lesson for him. And not the other things, but that is something that he's going to probably struggle with a little. And we have to make sure that lesson is learned. And sometimes that means holding ourselves and being like, he has to learn his lesson, because if he spent some money on a credit card, just as an example, he has to learn that we're not going to be there to save him. Like, what do you have to do now to pay your own bill? And that's hard, because you don't want, I don't know, it's a hard lesson for us to let go in that sense too.
if I may, Babette, I wanted to address something you said. And my children, I've had a very interesting mix of the way I raised them. I've been, married before, and we've lived behind the gate in the big mini mansion and blah, blah, blah. But I've also been in a situation where we were all in a hotel room trying to figure out how I'm gonna feed them with $20 for a week.
Got it.
And my children have been on the orange carpet for Nickelodeon, and they've also understood what it was like to figure out how we were going to drive from New Mexico to, wherever across country. So I used to, in thinking about what you said, Keesha, I used to just kind of beat myself up about not choosing some of the opportunities that were presented to me that would have created this big balloon of quote unquote fame, stardom, whatever, because I needed to choose them, because at that time I was single with them. And I would beat myself up about the hard stuff they've been through because of those choices. But to your point, they learned how to navigate. They learned how to navigate. Paul says that I've been, I've had and I haven't had, and I've learned to be content in all. The kids have had, hindsight is great, because I can look back at it and go, thank you, God, for all of the high highs and the low lows and everything in between, because they've moved 20 something times.
Yeah.
Have to make friends over and over and over again with all different kinds of people.
That's hard sometimes.
And they can navigate all those spaces now.
Yeah.
It's particularly the twins and Christian, in a way that I don't know that they would have been able to had they not experienced all of that.
Yeah.
It's a blessing now, but at the time I was beating myself up. And anybody who's watching this has a computer or a phone, so tech stuff happens. We had a little moment and we lost a bit of the end. So we're going to do this in part 2.
There you go.
This is part 1, and we're going to come back on and give you guys the rest of it, because it was just outstanding. And
it was.
Our shows have been, though. Everybody we've had, right? Everybody has been amazing. So that said, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. And you guys know what we're going to say. Remember, nobody can do you better than you.
That's right. And remember, don't ever forget. And when you think about forgetting, just say the words, baby, nobody can do you better than you.
Oh, for sure. Nobody can do you better than you.
See you next time.
Be up a part two.